Hi, everyone. I'm Christy Forsyth. I'm just feeling this call today to go live. I don't know. I've been feeling like I need to be creating more, sharing more. And so I'm just, this is a topic that I have on my mind today because it's something that comes up often and that I find myself teaching on often. And I think that this stuff is really important because a lot of the people who I work with, who either connect with me through my videos or my posts or my work, my sessions, a lot of those people are either navigating their spiritual awakening or on the brink of stepping into a higher phase with that, right? Like they're moving into the next level of that work. And this is a really magical, beautiful thing. But I find that sometimes there are also these things that people can get caught up in when they start to get in the process of this that they don't necessarily know to look out for, right? We're all, as much as we're spiritual beings, I think that we're all humans, human beings as well. And I think sometimes like the human part of us can get really caught up in some of the spiritual stuff and it can become problematic. So today I'm going to talk about some common spiritual pitfalls that I see. And I want you to just listen for yourself in this process because my intention is not to judge, not to make you feel badly about that, but to help to lift you up and to help you to understand how you can do spirituality better. And, take that with a grain of salt as well, because I think that spirituality is an incredibly individual process and it's not something that someone else can tell you and it's not something that you want to allow to be too influenced, but I want you to just tune in with yourself and ask yourself, are there aspects of this that I see within myself that I could improve? Because I think that we all have room for improvement. So the first thing that I want to highlight is working with energy and not being intentional about it. So this happens like when people start to understand how energy works, right? We're not just physical beings, we're energetic beings. And so we start to understand a lot of the things that we experience here on earth are energetic. A lot of the anxiety that you feel can be simply energy flowing through the body, for example. A lot of the things that you're feeling can be just you processing energy or feeling energy. We experience energy all day, every day through people, places, and things. So I think number one, it's really important to be aware of energy. And I think that it's a really powerful thing once you start to understand how you're influenced through energy to start to do some work with your energy, right? So, and I'll try to remember to share this below, but one of the tools that I recommend for starting to manage your energy is to do like some kind of a daily filtering where you're surrounding yourself in a bubble of light. I have a really quick meditation for that. That's a beautiful way for you to start your day. Totally free up on my YouTube. So I will put that down below so that you can connect with that. But so people will get into this and then somewhere along the way they're getting a little bit more confident with the energy and things like that. But where I see this becomes problematic is when you don't understand how energy works. I think that a little education on these things goes a long way. And I think that it's really important. We don't want to just go around doing things like just cutting cords and clearing energy and especially working on other people's energy unless we have some level of education on those things. And again, I think that this is something that we intuitively do very naturally, but I also think that it's important to have someone teaching, guiding, showing you the way. You get to intuitively choose your teacher and let that show you. So if you're relatively new to that, you want to make sure that you have some idea what's going on for you and have a place where you can ask questions and explore that because we can do a lot of harm with energy. So there's that, but also not being intentional. And I think with energy, being intentional is the most important thing when it comes to energy, because energy is created through intention. So what does that mean? It means that if we decide what we want the energy to do for us, if we're saying, this is how I would like to use the energy, that can be an incredibly powerful thing. So we don't want to just kind of open ourselves to all energies, or just, without being intentional in the energy that we're working with. We really want to be mindful and very clear when we're putting the boundaries out there to the universe, to God. We want to just say, I only work with the light. If I'm connecting with my energy, if I'm connecting with other people's energy, I only work with the light. And setting that boundary right away. Boundaries are so key and so important on your spiritual journey. So putting that out there, and that the energy that, like, let's say you're working on your own energy, or you're working on other people's energy, or you're just doing things to move energy, setting the intention that anything that may come through in relation to that is of a helpful, healing, or preventative nature only. We don't want to be just like tapping into people's energy fields. We don't, I mean, to me, that violates like energetic boundaries, right? We don't want to just be checking in on people all the time without having that permission, especially if it's clear maybe that person has set a boundary with you. And so that's something that we really want to keep in mind. We want to be mindful about filtering the energy so that we're only allowing that light to come through. Now, if you're somebody who wants to learn more about energy, I do privately teach people, coach people with that stuff. But I also, in my membership, my Clarity by Christy membership, have a Mastering Your Energy class. And to me, this is such a master class on getting started with energy. And it talks a lot about this stuff. It's really key. But even if you're doing things like starting to read tarot cards, starting to connect with numerology, astrology, whatever that is, I think that being intentional on the front end of that, letting the universe know what your boundaries are really important. And those boundaries that I listed are so key in doing that, because again, we can connect with all kinds of energies, and we do not want negative energies, heavy, dark energies guiding what our readings, our energy work, any of those things that you're connecting with at all. I see it happen. I've seen it happen with some people who are professionals in this field, and it's very concerning, because you can get accurate information, but ultimately you are not working with the light. You are not working with an energy that is good for you, but is good for the people that you're serving and that you're helping. So I think that that's important. Another pitfall that I see is people who are not operating from integrity. I feel like this goes without saying, but at the same time, I have seen it so often. I kind of like, when I stepped into the spiritual community, I really expected this is going to be like love and light, and everybody's going to be really supportive, and then everybody is going to be really excited, because there's something for everyone, right? We're all coming together to help people, to create this change, to help the world to shift into this significant level up, this ascension of the planet, right? There's so many light workers here on the planet right now for that purpose. And so I kind of blindly went into that and realized pretty quickly that, number one, there were a lot of people who were not welcoming of that. But number two, a lot of people who were very much like gatekeeping, wanting to be in that position of, I'm special and you're not. Right. And it makes sense. Like, that comes from a lack mentality. Like, this idea that there's not enough to go around. And I think that there absolutely is enough to go around. If you're being called to a specific position by God or the universe, whatever you call that, I call that God. There is going to be more than enough to go around, right? This is, and we don't want to be like replicating what people are doing, because that's not your path, that's somebody else's, right? But listening to your intuition and allowing that to guide the process. So what I mean when I say um, not operating from integrity, things like stepping into a competitive energy, which I kind of already touched on, right? Allowing yourself to step into that, allowing yourself to stay in that energy. We all are human and we move into that sometimes. That's just right. But recognizing when it comes up for you, and again, recognizing that there's more than enough to go around for everyone. I see that being taken even further, and we have people who are intentionally sending negative energy in someone else's direction. This is never okay. I want you to understand that the energy that you put out, you will receive back tenfold. And so the energy that I want to receive back tenfold is positive energy and light. And so you want to think about, how can I walk in integrity? How can I live in integrity every single day, so that not only am I making a positive impact in the world, but also the energy that I'm receiving back is the energy that I want to be receiving back. So if we're out there and we're trying to like create blocks, create issues for people, or geez, I've seen some people send some really terrible things. Understand that this is never going to serve you. This is never going to feel good or right with your soul. And it's a problem. Or another thing that I will see people trying to do is trying to like manipulate energy, right? It's okay. We want to, of course, we want to manifest things, right? But you also want to be mindful about, when are you interfering with someone else's free will? Yeah, Carol's saying a lot of ego and false light. Absolutely. It's happening a lot in the spiritual community, which is exactly, Carol, why I'm talking about this, because it's very concerning to me. And I want you guys to be mindful of this in how you operate, but also in who you're interacting with, right? Use your discernment. And if something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. And I want you to pay attention to that. If somebody's saying, you have a curse on you, and I'm the only one, if you pay me all this money, I can release this curse, and I'm the only one that can release that curse, that's bullshit. If you have somebody in your inbox who is a fake version of me, because I get a lot of these imposters, or someone else, and they're trying to sell you a reading, and they're saying, oh, I'm just drawn to you, and the angels, your ancestors, whatever, have a message for you, that's bullshit. People who actually know what they're doing with this work don't do that. We just don't need to do that. And so that's so important. So, but we also want to keep in mind that we don't want to try to be manipulating energy without permission. So for example, I have a friend who is going through something pretty significant medically right now, and actually I'm asking for prayers with that, because it's a tough situation. But before I started to work on his energy to help try to create some movement with the situation, I asked permission from his soul, and I got a yes. I also asked permission from his wife, and I got a yes. So it's so important that we're doing that. But what I see a lot happening is like trying to pull tarot cards on other people's situations, or trying to get answers on other people's situations, or like, we want to keep in mind, like, once we're starting to interfere with other people's free will and their choices, that's problematic. And you wouldn't want somebody to do that to you, right? We want to honor, we want to respect other people's free will and stay in our own lane. I hope that that makes sense. So yeah, operating from integrity is so important. I want you to just ask yourself, like, does this feel right? Does this feel right to me? Is this okay? And I'll have people who sometimes will come to me and they'll say, I want you to do a reading on this person. And it's like, no, like I will do a reading for you, on you, and how the energy is influencing you. But unless that person is coming to me or coming with you as part of that and giving me permission to tune into their energy field, that's not a direction that I'm willing to go. Another thing, using spiritual concepts to make excuses for certain situations in your life. So, for example, have you guys ever heard the term spiritual bypassing? Spiritual bypassing is when we are so caught up in this concept of good vibes only light. I'm going to just keep my vibration up. That we go so far with that we actually aren't truly staying in our light. We're just avoiding things, right? We just are burying our head in the sand. We are potentially being delusional about things. Like, so we want to be really mindful of that we also came here. Yes, we came here to be a light in this world. Yes, we came here to uh, vibrate as high as we possibly can. I talk all the time about come back to your highest vibration, right? Like keep working on raising your vibration, come back to your light again and again and again. So key. However, if you're ignoring the shadows, that's problematic because you are not perfect. I am not perfect. None of us are perfect. And we have shadow stuff that we're here to work on, right? We came here to learn and to grow and develop. And so if the process always looks like, nope, there's no problem here, that actually can impact other people in a negative way, but it's really, you're not doing yourself any favors. And so when the work comes up, as uncomfortable as that is, let yourself take a little time. You don't have to live in it, but take a little time to visit the feelings, the emotions that are coming up. Take a little time to visit the issues that are coming up. And then come back to your light, right? Do whatever it is that you do that makes you feel good to come back to your light. We want to find that balance so that we are not spiritually bypassing, avoiding the things that we need to be working on, that we came here to work on, because then unfortunately we're going to repeat the lessons, we're going to repeat the cycles in this life or another. So you don't want to do that. We definitely don't want to do that. I think that's important to keep in mind. Other things are like, I'll see people using like the twin flame connection as, I'm going to just call it an excuse, right? I don't think that they perceive it that way. I think like the intention is, okay, I believe myself to be in a twin flame connection. And to be honest, I don't know what I believe about that. I do believe in special connections. I do believe in soul contracts and soul connections and things like that. But the twin flame connection is this idea that two souls are like that they are separated and part of the same soul and meant to come together. And there's this whole journey, and it sounds so romantic, so beautiful, right? Like you're meant to meet and you feel that special connection, and then you separate for one reason or another, and you're meant to do your work so that ultimately you can come back together. Now, that sounds really beautiful, right? But here's where it's problematic. It becomes problematic because I watch people do it all the time, where they will stay waiting on somebody for years when they could be happy elsewhere. And I've been there, right? I have done this myself. So I've learned my own lesson. Or they will make excuses for the way that someone else is treating them, or make excuses for the way that they're treating somebody else, right? Because sometimes I see people get caught up in being convinced that it's this specific thing, and they're violating boundaries. They're not honoring what that other person has said to them, or the clear indication that that other person is not interested at this time, or whatever it is, right? So there's so many ways that that can show up, but things like that, or things like like we can become aware, like I dealt with this issue within a past life, and so it's just showing up in my life, and that's that, right? And so like, so it might be like, oh well, I died that way in the past, and so in this life something connected to that is giving me anxiety around that. So let's say you died you know going off a cliff or something in a past life, right? And in this life it's like, well, I have this fear around cliffs, and that's it. It's a past life issue, so I'm never going to drive by a cliff because of that, right? And maybe you don't need to, right? But I also think that it's so important for us to take a look at, is that impacting your functioning, right? If you have to drive by a cliff to get, if that's the fastest route to get where you're going, and you are driving miles around that, that can be problematic, right? That's starting to interfere with your functioning. So does that make sense? It's like, where we use that as an excuse to not do the work that we're being called to do around that. Because I think that a lot of times we are being invited, when we have fears around things, to work on them, right? And sometimes that's very, very hard, and I understand that. So there's no judgment here about that. I understand, but I see so much growth and potential for people when they actually say, you know what, I'm going to challenge myself a little bit, and I'm going to do that. My background is in mental health counseling. I did that for a long time, and one of the techniques that we would use for people around fear was what they call exposure techniques, right? So it's just a fancy way of saying we're going to expose you to the things that you're scared of. And we're going to do that in a very systematic way where we're getting you more and more comfortable with that. Because what we know about anxiety in the brain is that the more you avoid something, the more problematic it becomes. So I think we can use that, and we can say, well, that's just that. And this is an issue that I'm dealing with. And, never take a look at that. So I think that we're really to never take a look at that, or again, to allow people to violate our boundaries and these types of things, or to violate the boundaries of others, whatever, and just let that be excused because of some kind of a spiritual concept. That's problematic. That's definitely problematic. I see you guys. Yeah. Okay. So Renee's saying, yeah, twin flames trigger us to grow the most. They're meant to challenge us, to make us defend our boundaries and grow. Absolutely. And they can, and they do, right? I think there are a lot of relationships that do that for us. And I think that there's real value in that. That's a really beautiful concept, right? That something is helping us to grow. Where it becomes problematic is when we are settled. Like I see people who say, well, like that's my twin flame, and but like that person is being abusive to them, and they're staying in a situation that's making them absolutely miserable because they believe that to be a twin flame situation, or things like that. So it can become for sure problematic. Yeah. And Sharon says, I say it all the time, if you want to grow, you've got to face your fears. Absolutely. Yep. And Carol's saying it's in the shadow valley that we grow. Yes. Yes. There's so much. And I think, like, you're just not doing yourself any favors if you're not willing to sort of explore these ideas. I'm a big believer in the fact that, like, we want to be not in a demeaning, negative, shameful way, but we want to be calling ourselves out regularly to say, how am I doing? Where could I improve? How would I like to do things better moving forward? Because this is the growth process, and this is where you can become obsessed with your own personal growth. And Carol's saying, I think we have over romanticized twin flames too much. I agree. It's I think that I love some of the concepts around that, but yeah, absolutely. And it sounds really romantic, right? Yeah, it sounds really romantic. And again, like I'll see where, like when for example, if I'm reading for somebody around a relationship, I'll see them like waiting for somebody that they believe that there's like this special connection. And maybe there really is, sometimes there really is. However, it's excusing some behaviors that just are preventing them from being able to move forward into something that's going to be a better fit for them. Like I can sometimes even feel like somebody better kind of waiting on the side, wanting to be a part of this person's life, but they're closed off. And yeah, Sharon says, yes, I left mine in the dust. I'm not waiting. Good for you. Yeah. If it's like limiting you in your life, or again, if it's interfering with your functioning, or it's preventing you from being the best version of you, that's a problem. That's a problem. So the last one that I want to highlight, and this to me is a really big one, and that is relying too heavily on someone else to relay your intuitive information. Now, as somebody who makes a living as being a spiritual guide, a spiritual coach, helping people through my intuition, this is a pretty significant thing for me to say. Because I find that actually there are a lot of people in this community who, again, want to be the guru, want to be the authority, want to be the person with the answers, and they are the only one with the answers. And it's just not true. It's just not true. I actually had somebody ask me today, can I bring these things in so that you can take a look at it and you can tell me intuitively how it feels? Yes. But my response to that was yes, and we can feel into that. But I want you to keep in mind that you are the intuitive authority on your life over me, over anyone. And that's so important to keep in mind because we get really caught up in this. And I think even sometimes it can create a dependency for people. It can create a situation where people are like, yeah, like I need this reading all the time. It can become an addiction. I think it's important, even if it's not, somebody that you're working with individually, even if like watching readings, tarot readings, or any kind of readings, astrology readings on YouTube or wherever. But like, I think we can binge those. I've been there myself in my own life when I've just felt really lost and confused, where I'm just like watching those, and you get that feeling where it's like, this is too many. I'm going too far. And I want to invite you to listen to that, because like at the end of the day, most of the time, nobody's telling you something that you don't already know. I think like people can help us to see the blind spots that we need to see. Carol says, I'm clapping and saying, yes, Queen, I love it. Yeah. She says, holy crap, you're nailing it today, speaking the truth. Yeah, good. I'm glad this is resonating, because people aren't saying this shit enough and people need to hear it. So you are the intuitive authority for your life. And I think we can get really caught up in handing that authority away again and again and again. And I love to help people to see their blind spots. I love to challenge people and help them to see where they can grow and what their intuition is trying to show them, because we all have our blind spots. And so it can be hard sometimes to see those things. But again, when it steps into a territory of becoming dependent on someone to tell you these things, or on watching readings constantly, or checking in intuitively on things constantly, that can become problematic, because we want for you ultimately to be tapping in, tuning into your own intuition, and letting that be a guide for your life. Have you ever gone to a psychic or had some kind of a reading and just like something doesn't click, something doesn't resonate, or you're like, that's not right, that doesn't feel right? Listen to that. We're just human. We're just, like, are we tuning into a gift and a skill that we have? Sure. But we're still just human. And so you want to always compare that against your intuition. The clients that I do the best work with are the ones who are like working together along with me. And I have a very specific process when I'm doing like longer term work with people. I will start out doing more intuition stuff at the beginning, and then I take the training wheels off, right? Then I'm like, well, what do you think? Tell me what your intuition says. And so it's a very specific process of building their own intuition and helping to connect them with their own intuition, because at the end of the day, if you can do it yourself, if you can tune in, and you can, and listen to yourself, you are always going to be on your best life path. We all have an intuition. It's the GPS for your best life. It's going to help you to make better decisions for yourself. It's going to help you to trust yourself more, to trust in your higher power. So when we can learn how to lean into that, it's going to be so much more powerful. With that expression, you can, I'm going to butcher this, I promise, but like something like you can lead a man or lead a man or give a man a meal, like, I know I'm butchering this, but like lead a man to eat or something like that. But if you teach them how to fish, they will be set for the rest of their life, right? So you can give them a meal, or you can teach them the skill that they need so that they can feed themselves for the rest of their lives. Put that in comments if you guys know what that is. Like, I'm just totally spacing on that right now. I don't know. But it's this concept, right? It's never meant to be, Or if you're operating from integrity, it's never meant to be the situation where somebody is completely reliant upon you for any of these things. Help, yes. Doing it for you, no. And so I think that that's so important just to keep in mind as you're doing that. And so a lot of times, like if you send me a message and you're like, well, what do you think about this? You guys know my first response is going to be, well, what do you think? How do you feel about it? What's going on for it? Because most of the time, you guys already know the answer and you're already connected with that. Or if you take a little time to sit with that and really listen to yourself, the answer comes. And so I think that that's way more important than me just saying, well, here's the answer. When again, I'm not the authority on your life, you are. So important. Hi, Mary Jo. Um, so so important with all of this stuff. So I think that it's important to let's see, what did Renee say? Sometimes teaching goes further than charity or just giving the thing they are looking for. Yes, like I think that ideally, if we're wanting to keep growing spiritually, we want to be building and developing those skills, right? So that we're learning how to trust ourselves, how to trust our higher power, how to honor that intuition that's coming through. And so ultimately, my job is to get people to the place that they don't need me anymore. And it's so funny because that was something I always learned in the counseling realm when I was doing mental health counseling, was like, that was my job back then too, right? To get people to the place where they build the skills that they need to have in order to manage this on their own, rather than to create a dependency. So I want you to just keep that in mind as you're navigating your spiritual journey, as you're connecting with other spiritual leaders that you're connecting with. Use that discernment, pay attention, watch for all of this stuff, learn from people that you, in your discernment, feel like are leading you in the direction that feels best and right for you. Your intuition will tell you. That's it. Give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, teach him how to fish, feed him for a lifetime. That's it. Thank you, Carol. So yeah, sorry you guys. I like really struggled with that one. So just keep these things in mind. This is really important, and I don't think enough people are talking about this stuff. So if these messages resonate with you, and it looks like they are for a lot of people, please share this video, comment, like this. If you're watching this on my YouTube later, please hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. Whatever you feel called to do, I always appreciate it. Comment below. Let me know, like, are you recognizing this in yourself and other people? That kind of stuff. And if you're wanting to dive into your spiritual journey and have some help and some support, but you're not necessarily in a place where you're wanting to do private sessions with me, I do have my Clarity by Kirsty membership, and that is only $9.99 a month. And I have a lot of tools up in there, a lot of classes, a lot of sessions that I know are coming from the best possible intention, the best possible energy, because I am creating them. And that is like, integrity is at the root of every single thing that I do. It's so important to me if you haven't picked that up yet. And so it's another place for you to focus on your spiritual growth, your personal growth. I add new stuff every month, and there's over 3 years worth of content up there. You can check it out at claritybychristy.com. And you can get your first month free if you use, in all caps, free month right now. I'm in the process of really wanting to build the community of that and bring more people in. And I feel good about it because I know how I'm doing all of that. So if that's you, if that connects for you, make sure you check that out. I'll put the link below. Thank you guys so much for being here today and for participating. I love to hear you guys jump in with all of this. And I know some of you are out there doing your own amazing work and operating from integrity. So I'm so proud of you. And I love to see it so much because we need it. The world needs spiritual leaders. The world needs people who are operating from integrity and doing things from a place that is God-led, universe-led, light-led, whatever you want to call that. All right, guys, thank you so much. I will see you soon with another video. Take care.